The Green Lanterns of the Absolute Universe aren't warriors forged by a cosmic police force. They're pilgrims of a strange philosophical light. In this universe created by Darkseid, there are no guardians of the universe, no core, not even a whisper of an emotional spectrum. Here, light isn't a construct you fire from a ring, it's a state of mind and representative of the stages of enlightenment. Quad, the black flame of chaotic action. Rao, the red flame of restraint. Sir, the green flame of correct action. And Hour, the golden flame, a blaze of total understanding. It's an elegant system until you remember that the cosmos in question is stitched together by a god who thinks oppression is the same thing as balance. The story of these new Green Lanterns begins in Evergreen, a small town with small town values. Nothing interesting really happens there, at least until the day it was visited by the alien Abin Sur, his green aura burning through the streets as if he were pruning the wicked. What appears to be a massacre turns out to be more of a cosmic personality test, recruiting foot soldiers for a war against Mogo, the living planet at the heart of the Black Stars. Joe Mullein, Hal Jordan and John Stewart, residents of Evergreen, discovered that this enlightened green light had its own weakness. It dimmed before yellow and gold. And when Joe's wedding ring swallowed Abin Sur's power whole, everything collapsed with it. His ship fell, Evergreen was crushed, and Hal Jordan crossed a line. He killed Abin Sur, not realising that he was never his enemy. That single act cursed him with the black flame, essentially making him an aching wound with a human face, until Joe eventually freed him using her new powers. And then came the last issue, which was far smaller in scale and told Joe's secret origin of sorts. Instead of cosmic armies and planetary warfare, we followed Joe from childhood to heartbreak, watching her carry a lifetime's worth of disappointments. A father who believed in tradition more than truth. A hometown drowned in the polite tyranny of Sheriff Bill Hand. A police department rotting behind a handshake and a forced smile. And a young woman learning slowly and painfully that correct action isn't something you're taught, it's something you fight for. We watched Joe flee Evergreen's corruption, build a new life in Coast City, and fall in love with Cameron Chase, a DEO agent who was already married to her job, only to unravel that love with an affair. By the end of the issue, we're back in the present, where Joe finds herself seeking refuge with her ex-wife, and being welcomed, which is kind of surprising given how things left off. But things aren't quite as rosy as they first seem. There's clearly still a lot of resentment between the two. Cameron assumes that Hal is Joe's boyfriend and mockingly states that at least she's not carrying on behind her back anymore. And what follows is two people with a lot of history hashing out their frustrations. Chase is clearly still hurt by Joe's betrayal, but Joe counters that she felt like she always came second to Chase's job, and that whenever she felt like leaving, Chase would resort to love bombing to try to win her over. Chase felt that she was just accurately demonstrating her love for Joe, but from Joe's perspective, with a little distance, she can see that it was more of an attempt to manipulate her into staying. So really they were both bad partners. One was distracted and then overbearing, the other unfaithful. As the two talk through recent events, Chase asks Joe to take her ring off, not in the way that she had demanded it previously, as a way of terminating their relationship, but she wants to see what will happen, given that the ring channeled Abin Sur's power. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as she removes the ring, she reverts back to normal. Chase tries the ring on and notes that while she is more powerful, she was able to punch through a coffee table, she's nowhere near as strong as Joe. With this new information, Chase heads out to find her former partner Simon Baz, and she advises Joe to stay indoors and away from the windows, leaving her alone again. Now, an important thing to note here is that this issue introduces several new characters, or at least the absolute versions of pre-existing characters. The first person we see in this issue is Stephen Dayton, known as Mento, a member of the Doom Patrol in the mainline universe. Here he uses his Mento machine to make contact with a consciousness outside of the world, the same consciousness that has been seen throughout the series as a white ring in the void of space. The entity tells him to feel fear and to warn everyone on Earth of the world that is coming and the face of steel. Now, I don't immediately recognise that face of steel, and I feel like I ought to. It kind of resembles a Manhunter a little bit, but I don't think that's who this is. Given what we know about the Black Stars and how they augment their adepts' flesh with metal, I have to assume that it's something to do with them. But we'll see. Unfortunately, we don't learn much else from Dayton because he's quickly assassinated by Hector Hammond's assassin, the Master of Disguise, Nemesis. He had been sent to steal the Mento device for Hammond and remove all trace of it. He managed to lull Dayton into a false sense of security by impersonating his colleague Terry Long, the husband of Donna Troy in the mainline universe, who had been selling Dayton out to Hammond and got a bullet in the head for his trouble. And if that wasn't enough references to obscure mainline characters, then you're very fortunate that there are a few more in this issue. Simon Baz and his new partner Kyrie Limbo, a clairvoyant, are briefed by their boss Agent Double. I'm not too familiar with Kyrie Limbo, but in the mainline universe she was a former girlfriend of Guy Gardner's. Limbo asks Baz why he insists on wearing a mask at all times, and he mentions that he has to as a result of investigating Dr. Silence. If he sees his own naked face, then he will cease to exist. And Dr. Silence is another obscure Doom Patrol character created by Grant Morrison. But anyway, Baz informs Double that they have a lead on the Evergreen case, noting that the squad car of a highway patrolman that went missing last recorded him speaking to Hal Jordan on the side of a road, as we saw in issue 1. Jordan has a large online presence as a toy seller, and he has a habit of oversharing information online, and one of the pictures he shared was of a returning Joe Mullein, and Baz recognises her as Cameron Chase's ex-wife. And so the pieces start to come together. Now, it's important to remind you all that in issue 6, Chase was put on leave after she was told she couldn't work the Evergreen case, and she accused Double of being on Hector Hammond's payroll. Well, it turns out that her instincts were pretty much spot on. As soon as Baz and Limbo leave the room, he calls Carol Ferris, Hammond's assistant, and lets her know everything he does. And this results in Nemesis making his way to Chase's apartment, but he doesn't arrive with his real face. He impersonates John Stewart. The shock of seeing John in person and looking normal leads Jo to drop her guard though. When last she saw him, he was, as she called him, Space Jesus full of cryptic warnings about killer planets. She doesn't have long to consider how unusual him turning up in Coast City is though, because Nemesis shoots her with golden bullets. Remember that Hammond had interrogated Todd Rice, who saw Hal Jordan kill Abin Sur with his yellow bullets, and they used this intel to take Jo down. She gets shot in the shoulder and then in the gut, but still tries to fight back, demonstrating some impressive willpower. The talkative Nemesis explains everything to her, telling her that his name is Keith, but for the purposes of this hit, he wants to be referred to as Goldface. Now, this is another deep cut reference. If you've watched Justice League Unlimited back in the day, you may have seen him running around in the background of the final season. He was a character plucked from obscurity by producer James Tucker, who wanted to shine the spotlight on as many weird and wonderful comic book villains as he could. In the mainline comics, he was a Silver Age Green Lantern villain, back when the Lantern Rings were weakened by yellow objects. He gained super strength and invulnerability after being exposed to some golden toxic waste, and ran around wearing golden armour. That doesn't seem to be the case here though. He has Jo dead to rights, slowly bleeding out on the floor, and the only person that might be able to help is an unconscious Hal Jordan. So, yeah, things aren't looking too good for our hero, are they? Absolute Green Lantern 9 is available now from all good comic shops. If you're opposed to the idea of cluttering up your home with comic books, then you can get this comic digitally from places like Amazon, as well as Neon Ichiban, a new digital comic retailer from the founders of Comixology. Personally, I prefer physical comics, but I do love the convenience of having thousands of comics accessible from my phone, but you do what works best for you. For those interested in my physical collection, I bought a bunch of discounted Absolute Comics variant covers in Forbidden Planet's Black Friday sales this week. But to make matters worse, my wife has resumed her now annual tradition of making me a custom advent calendar loaded with DC Animated Universe merch, and she's recording my reactions and uploading them to her channel each day. Go check those out if the idea of seeing a middle-aged man getting excited over 30-year-old action figures and assorted merchandise sounds appealing to you. Next time, I'll be back shortly with a video about Batman number 4, which introduces a sinister new villain, the Minotaur. And next week I'll be doing a video about Absolute Batman 15, which promises to reveal the dark and disturbing origins of the Absolute Joker. This is a character that writer Scott Snyder calls his most evil creation to date. So this will be fun. Hope to see you then.